After the Melbourne Grand Prix, there were plenty of questions and talking points that I wanted to discuss with you guys. Things like, can Bottas really give an early title charge? Is Kubica going to be out of a Williams seat as early as halfway through the year? And there were things like that which I thought maybe we could talk about, but they were jumping the gun a little bit after one race. But something I think we can talk about, which obviously you've seen on screen and you've seen the title, is Ferrari. A really difficult start to the year for the Tifosi. Coming in after testing, they were looking so strong, and yet in Melbourne they were off the pace. The car seemed a little bit sloppy through the corners, and already we've seen our first bit of drama between Vettel and Leclerc with team orders. And that's the main focus I wanted to talk about today, because coming into the year, there were a few question marks. Would Leclerc be straight on Vettel's pace? Would Leclerc be fighting in for that number one spot instantaneously? And to my surprise, and to a lot of people's surprise, that didn't really come to fruition in Melbourne. Leclerc seemed to be off the pace of Vettel all weekend, really. Only a couple of attempts, nothing major, not like Kimi Raikkonen was over the last few seasons, but he wasn't quite up to the standard just yet, which is acceptable. For sure it's acceptable in his first race, and for a team like Ferrari, all that pressure that was on his shoulders, I think he did okay. Nothing, like I say, stellar. Made a mistake in practice too, spinning the car, nearly getting it into the wall, going through the grass a few times in practice as well, and in the race. But what he did do, and this is something that I think I spoke about in length over the winter, is that even if he doesn't shine ridiculously brightly in the early stages, all he has to do in his first year is cause Ferrari issues, and that's exactly what he did in Melbourne. And already he has forced the team into a little debuffle, a little debate on team orders. Now, the race went down like so. Vettel and Leclerc. Vettel started in front in P3. Leclerc was back in P5 behind Verstappen, but Leclerc had a mega start, almost took Vettel out of the race early doors, because Leclerc went around the outside of Verstappen, which was also the outside of Vettel. Vettel didn't see him and squeezed him onto the grass, and almost a little bit of contact. That was early signs that, oh, okay, Leclerc's going to try and ruffle some feathers at Ferrari this season. The race goes on a little bit, and we obviously had Bottas leading, Hamilton second. Vettel was the first to pit, and it was this sort of, I suppose, rogue strategy from Ferrari that they maybe could fluke a win like they did over the past couple of seasons that really put Vettel in a difficult position. It also forced Hamilton to come in for an early stop as well, and then ultimately and strangely, it put both of those drivers on the back foot. The two drivers we're looking at to be fighting for the championship were on the back foot, and it gave Max Verstappen a brilliant chance to do the overcut, if you will, taking Sebastian Vettel halfway through the race. And he also put a charge on Lewis Hamilton, but just couldn't quite get the Mercedes man. But ultimately, what this did is that it brought Vettel further down the pack and ultimately into the clutches of his teammate Charles Leclerc. Now, Leclerc, who had pitted later, didn't seem to have any issues whatsoever, was running pretty consistently. Like I said, went over the grass once and there were a few sort of shocked faces for a moment, but was running steadily, and it got to the point where he was catching Sebastian Vettel by about 7 or 8 tenths per lap, a really solid rate of knots, to be honest with you. Vettel, a little bit worried, a little bit spooked. He was asking the engineers, well, what's wrong with the car? Because it's not been great so far this weekend, but why are we so slow? And it was a mixture of, I suppose, the car not being quite on the pace over the weekend, but also the fact that he had come in to stop so early. He'd struggled following Max for only a short period of time, but also trying to defend a little bit from Max had really hurt Vettel, and Leclerc seemed to be in this almost honeymoon period with his car, with his tyres, and was really catching Vettel too quickly. Ultimately, Leclerc gets right behind Vettel, asks the team, comes on the team radio, can he overtake? The answer was no, and he had to stay behind Vettel. But we didn't find this out during the race, we found this out after the race, but it was just so bizarre to see on screen, because at the time, Vettel was struggling. Leclerc was, like I say, going a second lap quicker, got up to about 7 tenths away from Vettel, and then a gap formed about 2 seconds, which was out of nowhere, and Leclerc had to really slow down. Bear in mind as well that behind Leclerc, was a 50-second gap back to Kevin Magnussen, and neither Vettel or Leclerc decided to come in to do one more stop to swap for fresh tyres to go for the fastest lap World Championship point. Now, a few question marks over the weekend, and in my race review this is something I really highlighted for being a major missed opportunity from Ferrari, and it was a focus of Mercedes and Red Bull, both fully aware of the implications this point could have. Ferrari almost dismissing it, and will that come to haunt them at the end of the year? This is the official team radio statements we got. Charles Leclerc saying, should I stay behind Sebastian, yes or no? And the team instantly coming back saying, yes, back off and leave some margin, which, again, I think why this is so bizarre and why I wanted to talk about it today is all through the winter we heard that there would be no team orders at Ferrari and that they would be free to race, and already straight away in the first race of the season we have not seen that. After the race, Sky Sport did a little interview with Mattia Binotto, and he said when Seb pitted to put on the medium tyres, he didn't find the grip he was expecting and was attacked by Max Verstappen. So we decided to take the car home. He was managing the tyres till the end. 10 laps from the end, we decided not to take any risks, hold positions and bring the cars home scoring points. Now, many people feel that is why the team didn't bring in Leclerc for tyres. Leclerc also came out after the race and said, to be completely honest, it's 50-50 situations, and when the time will come, I will probably be let known in the car. So he was saying and sort of trying to defend the team, which is completely within his right and completely the right thing to do when you're starting off a career with Ferrari, that if he's being fully honest, he feels that it was a split-second decision, and despite before the race they'd spoken about it, during the race things changed, and I completely understand that. However, it just seems such a silly thing to do, and yes, the team at the moment trust in Sebastian Vettel and want Vettel to win the championship, but I think what really grinds my gears is that, okay, they didn't let him swap position, but why didn't they pit Leclerc for an extra stop? Binotto's statement there clearly indicating they didn't want to take risks, but when you're fighting for 4th and 5th place, you need to try and get everything out of that weekend you possibly can. And that one extra point, which has now gone to Mercedes, arguably their biggest rival, they had more to lose, and yet they still came away with that point. And I feel it was worth the risk, in my opinion, to try and bring in Leclerc. Even Vettel at this stage, even Vettel for 4th place, you get 12 points. For 5th place, you get 10 points. And I know it's not a lot of difference. Even swapping those is not a lot of difference. But even bringing in Vettel, who was struggling on his tyres, bringing him out on fresh rubber, maybe there could have been a safety car later on and that would have helped him. But even if not, going for that fastest lap, all he would have lost, without a mistake in the pit stops, would be 1 point. Charles Leclerc would have picked up those 2 extra points. There would have been a harmonious team generally. Vettel probably would have been a little bit paid off with the 2-stop strategy. But overall, the media side of things definitely would look great on Ferrari, but now we're coming away thinking, oh dear, are they really going to try and cage in Leclerc for the next few years and mould him into this Kimi Raikkonen, which I don't think any of us want to see, and I don't think Leclerc's that kind of driver that would be happy to do that. You could see his frustration within the car that they wouldn't let him buy. I know in my statement I put up a second ago it seemed all very happy days, but really in the reality of it, the full team radio that we saw after the race, he was pretty frustrated with the team, asking, well, why? Why will you not let me buy? We discussed in length over the course of the winter that we would be treated equally, and straight away they weren't. And it's something that Ferrari, I'm disappointed with in the first race of the year, and it wasn't an ideal weekend for the team, but I think this was something in the winter we discussed we're really going to keep laser eyes on, because this is going to be a big rivalry over the course of the year. And Leclerc, a difficult start to his championship career. Can we say that, well, I say championship career, his championship challenge, I should say, but is he now out of that championship challenge? I think it's too early to say. And last year at Sauber, the first couple of races he had, he was behind Marcus Ericsson. But already he's only a couple of tenths off Sebastian Vettel. The similar sort of gap he had to Ericsson, And by about Bahrain, he had flipped that round massively. And this guy, Vettel, I think by the end of the year, even perhaps by about Monaco, I think could be under pressure from his teammate. And already Leclerc's done the right thing by putting him under pressure, done the right thing by putting Ferrari in a negative light in a way, and saying that, you know, we don't want team orders in Formula One. They're necessary, I understand that, and from a team point of view, they probably came away from that race not really having any issues or quarrels with it. But I think for passionate racing fans, for die-hard Formula One fans and Leclerc fanboys as well, throw them in the mix, it was an annoying situation. And I'd love to know your thoughts as well. Should Ferrari have used team orders? I'm 100% in agreement that they shouldn't have used team orders so early on in the season when really it was just a couple of points at play. And yes, a couple of points at the end of the season could make a difference, but after a difficult weekend, I think Ferrari have only made things worse for themselves by implementing team orders. Let me know in the comments below what you thought about the incident. You can join my official F1 Fantasy League. All those links will be in the description as well. But thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.